All right, folks, we've talked enough about components and tools. Let's get our hands dirty. Here we've got our reloading bench, which is a simple thing you could have as well. It's a little metal desk that's very, very sturdy with no vibration. We've lagged down our Redding Ultramag single stage press so that there's no vibration when we work that, the ram up and down. We're going to start by resizing some 3006 Springfield cases. Here I've got the Redding resizing die. A word of note when using Redding dies, they ship their dies with a rust preventative. So what I've done is taken a little bit of Hoppy's number 9, which I love the smell of, and put it on a rag, and I've wiped off all that rust preventative. And I suggest you do the same. Redding indicates that the corollary shell holder for 3006 is a Redding number 1, which I've got here. So the first step we need to do is to put the shell holder into the ram. There's a little insert for it right there. We slightly raise the ram, and we pop shell holder number 1 into with an audible click. At that point in time, we're going to extend the ram all the way upward. Once that's at the bottom of its throw, this lock ring on our resizing die is left loose. We're going to thread the die into the press body until we feel it touch the very top of that shell holder. As you can see, right there I've got it to the top of the shell holder. I'm going to easily put the lock ring down, and then what I'm going to do is lower the ram and turn that die just about 1/4 to 1/3 of a turn more. What that does, it gives us a very solid contact point and allows that press, you can see it at the very end, watch this. It allows that press to cam over, giving us a consistent resizing. What we then want to do is, with the provided Allen key, we want to gently turn it till we can get access to the nut and lock that ring down against the threads. Now Redding wisely puts a piece of lead shot in between the set screw and the threads, so if you have to adjust your die, you may back that set screw out just a little bit and you're going, it's not moving. You need to tap it on a block of wood to loosen that piece of lead shot. So again, we have screwed the die down to the contact point with the shell holder, loosened the ring, and turned it 1/4 to 1/3 of a turn more. You'll notice an adjustment at the top of your resizing die. What this does, it sets the depth of the decapping pin, that little tiny pin right here that pushes out the primer. You really don't want to have that extending past the level of the die mouth more than 1/4 inch. What that'll do is plenty of depth to knock out the primer, but you don't want that thing too long because you could damage the case web. So just like I've got it right here, just about 1/4 to maybe 3/16 of an inch. The next step we need to do is we need to lubricate the brass case we're going to use. I like Imperial sizing die wax. It comes in a nice little tin. Imperial also offers some dry neck lube for the case neck. So it's a simple procedure. You kind of feels like chapstick almost. You rub your finger a little bit into the die wax and simply put, rub it between your fingers and give it a good rub down up and down the case. Not too much on the shoulder part, but more toward the base where it tends to stick. So once you've got that part done, just a simple application of the dry neck lube, just a little bit of a roll, will adhere enough dust on there. Take your lubricated case, insert it into the shell holder, and with one crank of the press, you see the primer run down the tube. Your cartridge is resized, the shoulder pushed back to its proper dimension, and you can see that that primer is pushed right out of the primer pocket. We're going to switch it up now to a 357 pistol resizing die. The process is pretty much the same as the 3006 rifle case, except due to the thinner case walls and shorter lengths of pistol cartridges, Redding has a carbide sizing die, which does not require lubricant. The carbide steel is much harder and the cases tend not to stick. So we've got our number 12 shell holder and our Redding carbide die, and it's just a simple matter of cranking the press handle, and you've got a resized 357 case. Okay, so now that we got that set up, let's put this right in here and flare that case. Now what you really want to do is just give it a little bit at the end. You can see that that's no more than like a 1/16 of an inch, maybe an 1/8 tops. So it will receive that bullet. If you do it too much, you're really going to overwork your brass. And here's an example of drastic over-flaring. You certainly don't need that much, but you can also see the difference between the straight wall. And therein lie the three. The one all the way to your right is a properly flared case, the middle is over-flared, and that's not flared at all. Next thing you want to do now that that primer's out, we want to get all that burnt powder residue out of the primer pocket. Lots of great hand tools like we discussed before. This is the RCBS Large Primer Pocket Cleaner, which just a couple of little twists will clean all of that burnt residue out of there. And as you can see, you've got a nice clean primer pocket at this stage of the game. We then have to look into trimming our brass. So let's step over to the RCBS case prep station. Now that we've got our resized case with a clean primer pocket, we need to measure the overall length of the brass case to make sure it's not too long. We've looked in the Nosler Edition 7 reloading manual, and the 3006 has a SAMI specification of 2.494 inches. This case I'm measuring comes up 2.505, which means we have to almost take 10 thousandths off it to bring it back to SAMI spec. So we need to throw it into the trimmer. This is the RCBS case prep station. It's a combination trimmer, chamfer, de-burring, and primer pocket cleaner. And what it has, it's got a micrometer adjustable little knob down here, so you can get one of your example cases on this rail, use the set screws, and really dial in the exact length you want. The spring-operated jaws kill the motor while you're loading or unloading a case, and I've got a 30 caliber pilot right in here. So what I'm going to do before I turn it on is I'm going to slide it right in there until I feel it stop, and then I'm going to use these set screws, and then just increase the micrometer knob just a bit so that I can take off those necessary 11 thousandths. Here we go. As you can see, it took a bunch of brass off, and that case mouth now is trimmed up nice and square. However, when you cut brass, it leaves a bunch of burrs on the inside and outside. What we've got here is a manual RCBS multi-caliber chamfering tool and a de-burrer on the other side. What chamfering is putting an angled bevel on the inside of the case mouth, and what de-burring is taking any of those burrs off the outside of the case mouth so that your ammunition feeds very well in your rifle. So we can do it manually with a couple of twists of the chamfer tool, and then flip it around for a de-burring, or we can use these two portions here as such. And there we have a perfectly sized, trimmed to length, chamfered and de-burred case ready to roll. As you can see, the RCBS Universal Case Prep Station is a very valuable tool and a worthwhile investment. I want to tell you guys about a couple of different precise tools that may change the game depending on how you're loading your ammo. For a regular hunting bullet, this RCBS chamfer tool puts a particular angle, which works just fine, and we showed you how to chamfer brass. However, if you were using a different bullet like Nosler's Custom Competition, it has a more severe boat tail. RCBS makes a great tool called a VLD chamfer tool, and the VLD stands for very low drag, which is a kind of bullet designed for long range, such as the Accubon long range or the Custom Competition. And it puts a bit of a different angle on the chamfer, which might make your life easier when you're going for a higher grade of accuracy or for some long range shooting. The other thing I want to tell you about is Nosler's Custom Brass. Nosler has gotten into the brass case end of the business, not just in bullets. Now it's offered to you straight out of the box, pre-sized, pre-cleaned. The flash holes are uniformed. It's even chamfered and de-burred. So if you're looking for some good component brass to start out with some new loads, if you don't want to use your once fired, give the Nosler line a look. It's well worth the investment.